Good morning. This is Faith at Faith and Books. How are you doing? I'm sitting here at this park near my house, and it's about 35. Why are my lights on? Oh, I just turned off the engine, maybe? Anyway, the engine was too loud. I might have to turn it on again because it's cold. It's like 35 degrees out. But anyway, yeah, it's a frosty morning, and what was I going to say? And I didn't do a video last week because I went away on this personal retreat, and it was the first time I'd ever done that. The only other time I've been to an overnight retreat was in high school, my senior year in 1978. And that was a dramatic experience, and I think it scared me off of retreats. And then because I just was too shy and I didn't like all the touchy-feely sharing and that kind of stuff. I just am not that kind of person. But this was different. This was at a Trappist monastery about an hour away. It's in the Shenandoah Mountains, right off the Shenandoah River, and it's called Holy Cross Abbey. And did I say it was Trappist? And it was lovely. The retreat house was really nice and comfortable. You got your own little room with a single bed and a comfortable chair with a great reading light and a beautiful picture window, view of the mountains, and a little desk to write on, and your own bathroom. And you weren't supposed to talk, so you could take your meals, 3 meals a day. They're pretty good about the gluten-free, but not, I had to be very careful. I could only eat a couple of the things, but that was okay. I brought some raisins and some peanuts to munch on if I got hungry. Yeah, you had 3 meals a day, but you didn't talk. And then you could go pray with the monks. And so when I got there Friday night, I got there a little before 4, and I felt kind of shy and awkward. I didn't even eat dinner with the people. I asked if I could eat it in the room because I just felt too shy. But it was very nice, and I got a ton of reading done. I really focused on reading City of God, and I finished book 20. And then on Saturday, I read the entire book 21 in that one day. And it's got 22 books in it. So I managed to finish book 22 last night. So this is the good news. This has been a year-long reading project, and I finished it last night. I wasn't the first to not grade. We started off with several people. There were 3 that hung on, including myself, and I was the second to finish. But it was a good experience. But it's such a massive work. I really wish that I had read it with a good theology professor in my college days and read it more intensely, not over the course of a year, but just spent a full semester studying it and having a theology professor there to explain it to me, because it is a massive, sprawling work. It's broken into 2 volumes. The first volume is St. Augustine defending the Christian faith against charges that it led to the sack of Rome. And he uses that as a jumping off point to just dismantle all basically the pagan religions, why they don't make sense, why they're inconsistent, and also why they're wrong about their attitude towards Christianity. And he's very, very thorough, and he goes through everything with a fine-tooth comb. So it's a lot of words, and it can go on, and sometimes he'd be focusing on something so obscure or something that seems so dated to me now that it was hard to find it compelling. I just sort of had to push through. But other times it's brilliant and it's like, wow, it's really inspiring or insightful or something. So, and he's funny. He's very sarcastic. I'm going to lock my door because people are, I don't know who's here. But anyway, he can be very funny too. He can be very snarky. And then the second half of the book is he's comparing the earthly city with the city of God, with the heavenly city, where we all want to wind up in heaven. And so by comparing the ways of the world and the thinking of the world with the thinking of a Christianity, he's sort of he goes through everything. He goes through the entire Bible, analyzing it in that light. And he winds up, and this was a coincidence, because in Advent, as I was reminded when I looked at this children's book that I uncovered that I've had for years, and it's about the religious year, and it said in Advent, we focus on the last 4 things: death, judgment, hell, and heaven. And that's exactly how he winds up the book. He talks about death a lot, and then he talks about judgment, and then he talks about hell, and then the very last chapter is heaven and resurrection. And so it really was good reading for Advent, because those are exactly the things we're supposed to be thinking about anyway. I'm glad I read it. It was a real exercise in discipline. I feel a very good sense of accomplishment and relief, because it's sort of been something just, I didn't read it. I had a plan that I was really pleased with, and it was good for the first few months of the year. And then I fell apart, and I really felt, there were times where I really felt like it just wasn't going to happen. But it did happen. I finished it, and I'm really excited that I did that and proud of myself. And now next year, for my theological reading next year, I'm going to do the Catechism in a Year that Father Mike Schmitz is doing. So I just ordered their catechism. And I might get their notebook too. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I am excited about reading the whole catechism. I'm pretty well versed in the catechism, but I could use a refresher course. So I'm excited about that. That's going to be my big theological read for the next year. So let's see. So that was a big thing. Oh yeah. So I got a lot of that read on this retreat, but, I forgot to get it out here. Let me see if I can find it. But while I was at the monastery Saturday morning, I got up and I wanted to go to Lauds, which was at 7. And I really like praying the Liturgy of the Hours, although I only ever pray Lauds or the morning prayer. And then sometimes I'll do evening prayer. Sometimes I'll do night prayer. This is just very occasionally. And then when I used to go to a holy hour more often, I would usually pray the office of readings, and then whatever the prayer, whatever time of the day it happened to be closest to, I would pray that prayer. So I was excited to do that with the monks. I was surprised that so few people took advantage of that opportunity. While I was there were only 6 other people, or maybe there were 6 in total. Is that right? Yeah, there were 6 in total there. So it was very quiet. They have room enough for 16. They have 16 cells. The retreat house is like a brisk 8-minute walk to the chapel in the monastery, which I liked because it woke me up. It got me out of the room where I'd been, all by myself, and you take a brisk walk in the chilly weather to get to the chapel. I found it really pleasant. And now what was I saying? On Saturday morning, I got up, I read, I ate breakfast. I went for a long walk on the grounds. There's roads you can just walk down, and they have a cemetery. And then I went to their little store, and I'm going to show you the hall. They have a little shop, and I'll show you some of what I got. I don't have everything with me. And then I went to lunch, and then I went to the midday prayer, which they actually have at 2. And it was beautiful. And there were 2 other people in the church with me, in the chapel with me, listening to the monks sing. So they don't sing Gregorian chant. It's like more updated or something, but it's beautiful. It was sublime hearing them. And they sing in English, so you can hear the words of the Psalms. And it was quite moving. And then what did I do? And then I went back and I read, I napped, got up, read, napped, I went to dinner, and then I went to, I went to Vespers at 5:30, and that was beautiful, but I was the only one there, only one in the, congregation, in the pews. And then on Sunday morning, I went to Lauds, and I was the only one there. So I don't know what the other people were doing. There were 2 African-American women from DC. There was an Asian lady about my age. There was a younger white lady, maybe in her 40s. And then there was an older white guy who was fasting, so he didn't come into the dining room with us. After the first night, I got over my shyness, and I did eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner there. And I went to Mass, of course, at 10 on Sunday morning there, which was quite beautiful. And you know what? I'll link below. There is they actually have a Twitch TV or something where you can, they started that during COVID. So you can participate in their chant. They chant vigils at 3:30 in the morning, lauds at 7, midday at 2, and then vespers at 5:30. So yeah, so it was nice. It was a really nice experience. I got a lot of reading done. I got a lot of praying done right next to my room. My room was at the end of the hall, and there was a chapel, and nobody was ever in the chapel. I would go in there and pray the rosary. And this is what I want to show you. Let me see if I can find it. My purse is just so full. Yeah, I bought a beautiful rosary at the shop along with books. I'll show it to you because I'd forgotten to bring one. And this is dedicated to Our Lady of Guadalupe, and apparently there's some relic in it. I don't know what it's a relic of, but it has something to do with Our Lady of Guadalupe. Her feast is coming up December 12th. So I bought this, and then when I was buying it, there was a monk in the shop, and he said, "Do you want that blessed?" And I said, "Oh, I'd love to have it blessed." He said, "Well, I'll ask the abbot to bless it for you if you come to prayer." So I went to the midday prayer, which I'd been planning to do anyway, and so after the prayer, the abbot came, that particular monk, I never got his name, came over and got the rosary and gave it to the abbot. And then the abbot came over to me, and he held it and he blessed it. And then he said, "Let me put some holy water on it." So he went over and he splashed some holy water on it. Then he came back and he said, "Oh, it's beautiful." So anyway, this is a blessed by the abbot of Holy Cross Monastery. And that is like such a Catholic thing. You know, I'm sorry if you're Christian or non-believing, that would be something that was really, really delightful to a Catholic. So I'm really excited about that. So I would pray the rosary in the chapel all by myself. And it had a great library. I finally came out of my room and wandered around. And there was a little room there where there was a monk sitting, and I walked by and I was like, "Oh, what's he doing there?" And I think it was for confession. I wound up not going to confession. I have to do that today. So there was a little confessional, there was a little meeting room, and then there was this big library with any book you can think of about theology was in there. And they had a whole section on Thomas Merton, because he was I believe he was a Trappist monk, which is like a stricter, they're Cistercians, I believe. They're stricter Benedictines. They're like sort of reformed Benedictines, I think. If I have I always get those types of things mixed up. Anyway, I've gone on for 12 minutes now about this, so I'm so sorry. So let me start showing you what I got and telling you about what I'm reading. So I got several children's books, but I'm not going to show them because I might give them for Christmas. But I got this one, The Monk's Daily Bread. And I think I know this woman because I was in a co-op with a woman. It's the same name. And she and her husband, I think they had a couple of biological children, but then they had like a huge family, like 10 kids of their family was all types. It was very multicultural. They just adopted a bunch of kids. And I think must be a children's illustrator. I mean, not illustrator, children's writer, because the layout is by this other woman. It says text 2015 by Sylvia Dorham, illustrations by Christopher Tupa, layout design by Regina Doman. And Regina Doman, or Doman, I don't know how you say her name, she's a big name around here, and she lives near that abbey. She lives up in that area. So, yeah. So the two names that I know are around in this area, Northern Virginia area. So I just think that might be it. Anyway, this is a very cute book. And I love that there's a little bit of diversity in there too. So yeah, so this is a cute book about monks that I got for the 7-year-old, and I got that out already. And then the 3 books that I hauled, as we say. The first one is this one, Thomas Merton's The 7-Story Mountain. And I have read this before. I think it was my father's book from the late 50s, early 60s. It's hardback. It's falling apart. But I read that a long time ago, and it's sort of, I didn't read it cover to cover. I would just read big chunks, pick it up, read big chunks of it. When was this originally? 1948. But I think it had a lot to do with my reversion, because I left the faith for a long time and then slowly came back. And I think this was instrumental. Looking back in hindsight, I can see that it was instrumental. And I read somewhere that this is the #1 book cited when people are asked what inspired them to convert or revert. And it's this book. So it's very powerful. Thomas Merton was the son of some kind of bohemian artist. They were American, but they were living in Europe. He grew up in Europe as a little child. And then I think his parents died. One of his parents died. Maybe his mom died. They moved back to New York, and then his father died. So I think when he was like in his mid-teens, he was like an orphan and raised by relatives. And then he kind of had this bohemian life. I think he fathered a child. And then he decided to go to Columbia University. And that's where he met, I forget who the name of the priest was. He met somebody. He started getting interested in Catholicism. And he also had a friend named Robert Lax, who was a poet, and who was also there at the time and also converted at the time. And so he converted, and then, he felt called to become a monk. Anyway, it's a beautifully written autobiography of faith. I love conversion stories. I just love them. So I hope sometime in 2023 that I read this book, that I read it all the way. Then I also got The Way of Perfection by St. Teresa of Avila. About 10 or 12 years ago, my family went to Avila, and I saw her relics. I mean, this is my mother's favorite saint. And we had her prayer on our dining room wall for years and years and years. Let nothing disturb thee, let nothing affright thee. All things are changing. God alone is changeless. Patience gains all things. He who hath God wanteth nothing. God alone sufficeth. We had that on our dining room wall. I think I said it right. Anyway, but I don't have any books. I don't have anything. She wrote 2 big works. The Way of Perfection, this one, which is about prayer. She wrote it to the nuns in her convent. And then she wrote The Interior Castle. And I want to get The Interior Castle too, but I saw this. They didn't have that. They only had this. So I want to read this too. It's not too intimidating, and it's very conversational. She's talking to her nuns, on prayer. So she is. I believe she was the first woman declared doctor of the church in 1970. I believe. Does it say here? Yeah. Yeah. So she's an amazing woman. Okay. And then, so I got that. And then the last thing I got is The Lord by Romano Guardini. When I was taking, I took a couple of theology classes online, and I know I read some of this, and then I read something else. And I remember, Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space mentioning his name at some point. I can't remember how or why. But anyway, I saw this and I thought I've always wanted to read more by him. I think he's pretty amazing. So so I bought that. So that was my haul. Not all of it. I did buy about 3 other children's books, but I'm not going to show them. So I'm so happy I finished City of God. I'm still reading currently. I'm still listening to Pickwick Papers. I should finish it this coming week. I'm still reading 2 Years Before the Mass. I should finish it this coming week. When I finish 2 Years Before the Mass, I'm going to start reading a book by Ursula Le Guin in Sean Standfast's Faded Pages book club. It's a short book. I think 128 pages, something I downloaded on my Kindle, called The Word for World is Forest. An intriguing title. So I'm going to read that after I finish 2 Years Before the Mass. And after I finish listening to Pickwick Papers, I'm going to listen to The Duke's Children, which is the last book in the Palliser series. And that means I'll have read the Palliser series in 2022. Although If I actually finish it by December 31st, I don't know. But hopefully I'll get most of it done by the end. And the other thing I'm reading right now, which is just marvelous, is this. This is a series of 12 plays written by Dorothy L. Sayers, The Man Born to be King. I don't really like retellings of Jesus. I don't think people do it very well. Like, I'm not watching The Chosen. Maybe it's good. People rave about it, but like Jesus of Nazareth, I think they often get Jesus wrong, or just it. I don't know. It doesn't ring true to me, and there's a lot of things that bother me. So the only one I saw, what was it? That, the Mel Gibson one, which his own problems marred that movie, and it was too violent. It literally made me feel sick to my stomach. So I did not like all the graphic violence in it. It went too far. But what was that one called? I can't remember what it was called. It was about Jesus, about his persecution, about his death and resurrection. And that Jesus was played really well. So yeah, that one was good. But, there were all these other problems to go with that. But this is amazing. And I really enjoyed reading her intro because it was all about ascetics and how to write plays, and also the problem of having all the problems that you have with representing Jesus and all this stuff. And so I really enjoyed reading the intro, and I guess I'm more interested because I was trying to write a screenplay, of Mary Parton, which I didn't get very far, but I started reading about how to write screenplays, and I've never really thought about playwriting and how it's different from other things. And so this was really interesting, but she really makes it come alive, and it's really good. It's really good. I think that if we lived in different times that valued Christianity more, this would be a classic that everybody would be reading. But we don't live in those times right now. So, but it's a gem, and I am only into the second. I'm only into the second play. So I'm almost done. Yeah, I was trying really hard to finish the second play. Last night my eyes were closing, so I only have like a page and a half left, and then the third play. But just brilliant. I'm really, really impressed by this. And I don't know if I'll read all 12 plays in December. I'm just going to read as much as I can. The other thing I did for Christmas, this is getting so long, I'm sorry, but I ordered a couple of books for two of my kids from the Folio Society, because I kept hearing about the Folio Society. And I got a free diary. They sent me a free diary. And I'm going to use this to record my books for 2023. I'm going to get off Goodreads. I just find it clunky and bothersome. And this is going to be my new book journal. I don't know. I mean, some of the art is pretty cool in it. Some of it I could, I don't know. But it's handy dandy, and I've been thinking about doing that anyway. The little book that I journal now in, or I write lists in it, or thoughts down, and then I would write down books. I'll just keep doing that until it's finished. And then I have a separate garden journal. So I'm going to try it. And then I want to get the notebook for the catechism in a year. So I'm looking forward to next year. And it's funny because this is all handwriting, and I've got this arthritis in my hands. And so I can't write for long periods of time. And sometimes I can barely write. But I'm going to try journaling in 2023. I'm going to write down my books that I read, and I'm going to write down, my thoughts and my lists and ideas and that sort of thing. And I'm going to journal my gardening, because you need to keep records. I do. I'm very forgetful, and I need to keep extensive records. And then if I also journal as I'm reading the catechism. So I'm thinking next year is going to be a big journaling year for me. I think I'm coming back. I used to love journaling, and then I got away from it for a really long time, and now I think I'm moving back to it. So I think that's everything. Yeah, I better stop talking. 24 minutes. Oh my gosh, it's 25 minutes. I'm so sorry. But it's been 2 weeks. So, all right. Well, I will talk to you later. I hope that you're having a wonderful time reading. And if you celebrate Christmas, I hope you're having a wonderful, Advent or preparation for Christmas. And I hope you're doing well. And I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.